This is the second video in the lesson about evaluating supply-side policies. In the first video, we looked at the effect of supply-side policies on macroeconomic objectives of GDP growth, lower unemployment and a stable price level. In this one, instead, we're going to be looking at the different macroeconomic objectives of equality and fairness. So first of all, what is inequality? It can be considered from different perspectives. Can you recall the difference between income and wealth? You might remember that income is money which is earned by the factors of production. It's a flow of income, for example, wages coming from the use of labour, rent from the use of land, interest from the use of capital, or profit from enterprise. On the other hand, wealth is the value of a stock of assets. And these could be a house or other property, land, antiques, stocks and shares, all sorts of other assets that somebody might own. Now, one aspect of inequality that links those two is that those with the higher income can afford to put some money aside from their disposable income and use it to increase their stock of wealth. So they might buy more shares or buy another property. And often that property then earns them more income. So dividends from the shares or rental income from the property becomes part of their overall income, while those on low income don't have the spare money available to do that. Then there's a third category of inequality we could consider, which is inequality of income. So some people have more opportunities available to them in life, for example, to stay in education, get some training, which costs time or money, but offers them a better job for the future, while others don't have that chance available to them, but can only afford to go straight from full-time school education to look for a job in order to earn themselves an income. On this slide, you've got some data which gives you some applications, some background knowledge about the level of income inequality in the UK over the last 40 years. And this has been measured here with the Gini coefficient, which is a measure of the degree of income inequality in a particular country. The lower the value of the Gini coefficient is, the more equality there is in that country. So what does the data show about the levels of inequality in the UK over the period? How would you describe the data? Pause the video while you consider that and then restart it when you're ready. So what we can see here is that inequality has generally worsened over that 40-year period in the UK. Having started, if we take the original figure at around 38 or so, and then by the end of the period in 2018-19 having reached a level of 50. And the other two lines shown here for gross income and disposable income both show similar patterns. However, what we can also see is that since around 2008, the level of inequality has actually improved slightly as the Gini coefficient has fallen again, and that's by all three of those measures. Now, there's a task here for you on this slide. You're given 5 supply-side policies which a government might use, and for each of them in turn, your task is to consider whether it will reduce or increase the level of inequality in the economy, and be specific, please, about whether you mean inequality of income, wealth or opportunity, and set out why and how it would do that. Then, finally, evaluate your analysis with some reference to what that impact might depend on. Now, the next slide gives a sample answer to the third policy here, the one to improve public transport in cities. You have a choice. You could either have a go at all 5 of these first and then look at our sample answer afterwards, in which case you should pause the video now and restart when you're ready. Or if you want some help to get you started, keep watching through the next slide first and then pause the video and do the other 4 yourself. So here's our sample answer to one of those supply-side policies of improving public transport in cities. There clearly are ways that better public transport could reduce inequality, with better, cheaper access to school and work, which also leads to improved geographical mobility, leaves more disposable income available for other household needs, and so on. On the other hand, our second point of analysis here could look at the disadvantages of improving public transport. First of all, how is it to be financed? And then what about people who don't actually live in cities? That would potentially lead to greater regional inequality between urban and rural districts. And then finally, to evaluate, what does the effect of the policy depend on? So, for example, you might consider how affordable is the better transport. Just because it's better doesn't mean that everybody can afford to use it. Or you might think about whether the actual planning of the transport goes to where it's most needed for everybody in the economy to benefit. So that brings us to the end of this second lesson on evaluating supply side policies. The next and final one will be video will be about the fiscal impact of supply side policies and whether they always involve time lags.